Antisocial working hours are having an unexpected impact on domestic life. Shift workers like Hansina are finding it difficult to keep up with friends and family.
Those of us who work for Alcoa are sort of lost. We leave here at 7 in the morning and get back 9 o'clock at night. People don't dare phone or visit because they think we're either working or asleep.
To make sure they stay in touch, Hansina gives out copies of her work timetable to friends.
With the collapse of the banks, if it hadn't been for the aluminium plant, we would probably have gone bankrupt. Now the future is bright.
Today, Iceland is attempting a historic balancing act between people and nature, ecology and economy. Building this aluminium factory has set an important precedent for progress. And there's a good argument for building even more smelters as global warming takes effect. Fed by fast melting glaciers, rivers will see surges in water flow. And their hydropower potential will dramatically increase. It's a great window of opportunity, but it's brief. Experts predict the surge will last 50 years or so, after which it'll fade to almost nothing as the glaciers that feed the rivers dry up. Many believe industrialization isn't Iceland's only option. This is one of the world's most pristine environments. One of the most sparsely populated countries on Earth. Parts of the island are so off the beaten track, they've yet to be named. But the forbidding terrain that's kept humans at bay for so long is now drawing them in. Today, visitors come to be amazed at Iceland's extreme beauty and the creatures that inhabit it. On the northeast coast of Iceland, Húsavík is a town that's used to travelers. It was one of the first places settled by seafaring Vikings. For centuries, people here scraped a living from fishing. Long winters brought hard times, so the bigger the catch, the better.
It was part of the culture here in former times that people went and got whatever food they could find. Minke whales, dolphins and porpoises. Things are different today. It's not in our interest to hunt whales.
Today, Húsavík has reinvented itself as the whale-watching capital of Iceland. One man who's tapped into the new tourist market is Stefán Gudmundsson. For 10 years, he's run Gentle Giants, one of Húsavík's leading whale-watching companies. Stefán's no stranger to sailing.
I started going to sea with my father at the age of 5, and I've been at sea ever since. I'm the direct descendant of fishermen going back 150 years.
Although born and raised in Húsavík, Stefán, like many islanders, left to pursue his maritime studies. For years, he captained at sea, but always missed home.
I needed to come back. My roots are here. I've always loved nature, fish, birds and whales. I can completely lose myself in it.
Stefan realized that the natural beauty of his hometown and its wildlife was a great lure for visitors.
I've always been attracted to the idea of working in tourism.
He and his friends converted an old whaling boat and set sail.
Today, people see it as newsworthy that we are shooting with cameras instead of guns.
Gentle Giants is one of the many companies that ferry tourists from Husavik out to sea to view one of nature's most breathtaking sights. But the tide is turning on Iceland's ocean mammals. Breaking an international ban, the government recently sanctioned the return of whaling to Iceland's waters. Commercial whaling ships, moored up, are being given a new lease of life. It's legal once again to kill the remarkable creatures which the tourists come to watch. The decision to sanction whaling has been a controversial one. To Stefan, it makes little sense.
We can make more money from watching whales than from killing them.
Commercial hunts would generate just a fifth of the income of whale watching. But many Icelanders fiercely defend their right to hunt. It's an age-old tradition they believe should be upheld, despite international protest.
This whaling that we used to do and that still goes on, I see this as a sort of political statement.
The paradox of whale watching alongside whale hunting poses a dilemma for some tourists. If they stay away from Iceland in protest, it could spell disaster for Husavik. Ecotourism is one of the fastest growing industries in Iceland. But the money-making season is short. With hardly any daily sunlight, tourists stay away in winter, and places like Husavik become ghost towns. To make ends meet, many locals are leaving for the city, where job prospects are better. It's a pattern being repeated all over the island. The population of Reykjavik has more than doubled in the last 50 years. If this exodus continues, towns like Husavik will simply fall off the map. The debate about Husavik's future sums up the crossroads Iceland is at. Icelanders must choose between an old and new way of life. It's the old ways that have seen them survive in one of the most volatile environments on Earth. But though remote, Iceland is no longer alone. Technology has brought the global community ever closer. And Icelanders are learning to communicate with it in their own distinct voice.
In a language learned when no one was listening, try my best to tell you how I feel. Somehow I'm sure, and this I believe in, this is real. From my heart I sing to you and
Dicta are an indie rock band in a thriving music scene. With a best-selling album and several Icelandic #1s to their name, Dicta are the sound of young Icelandic culture. Contemporary, confident, in tune with the world.
stop me from flying. I leave no footprints of your
Friends from childhood, Dicta got together in school. At the time, there were plenty of Icelandic artists making it big internationally.
Björk and Sigur Rós opened doors for Icelandic music abroad. It's simply unbelievable that a country of 300,000 people can boast two such successful artists.
Dicta are part of a new generation for whom city life is the norm. Reykjavik boasts one of the most vibrant music scenes in Europe. But even here, opportunities are limited.
Even though we've sold a fair number of records, a gold disc for our most recent release, that isn't enough.
Only a tiny number can make a living from music because the market's incredibly small. A gold disc is 5,000 copies.
All the boys work full-time outside of the band. There are 2 teachers, a pilot, and a doctor. If Dicta want to give up their day jobs, they must appeal to a wider audience.
If you're looking to extend beyond the Icelandic market, which most people do, because the Icelandic market is so small, then it helps to sing in English, because it's an international language that most people understand.
Many Icelanders are bilingual. English is the unofficial language of business here, but Icelandic has always been the language of the arts. Singing in English is a break with tradition and a response to a very new need to engage with the outside world.
oh my God, I'm losing it. I'm finally going out of it. My senses tingle, I can hardly breathe. Oh my God, I'm losing it. I'm finally going out of it. I feel my
The media may be English, but the message speaks of Iceland.
Thank you for the world, the world, the world.
There's a common phrase we use. It'll work out. Just dive in and do something. We're just going to dive in. We're just going to do it, but do it well. And we're not going to think too much about it.
Thank you for the light, for making me see inside of me.
Dicta's confidence is typical of Icelanders' approach to an ever-changing world. Isolated for years, they've developed a strong sense of self and the confidence to adapt in the face of change. This small, versatile nation has already positioned itself as a global player. Its fortunes, good and bad, now affect us all. But if the last decades have seen Iceland transformed, there are bigger challenges to come. For over 1,000 years, Iceland's culture has been shaped by the volatile landscape. Now the islanders have the power to push back to anticipate disaster, to bend nature to their will. But for how long? Once again, fishermen are the champions of Iceland's economy. But the seas aren't an endless resource. Industrialists are harnessing nature to create an alternative future. But even these reserves can dry up. As the world is warming, Iceland sits at a crossroads, searching for a sustainable path. Like never before, the world is watching. In so many ways, the fate of Europe's great wilderness matters to us all.